So the main purpose of using water, aside from this is a universal solvent, the specific heat of water is high compared to other solvents. So specific heat is the measure of how well a substance can absorb heat. Next slide, please. So why is it water perfect for cooling? So hindi naman ho perfect ang water for cooling kasi may mga impurities siya that will affect the operation of cooling system and boiler. Next slide, please. So because of the hydrologic cycle, nagkakaroon ho ng impurities yung water. Next slide, please.
I-share ko po sa
Next slide.
talagang nag-reset po.
So you have the impurities of the water, we have the dissolved solids, dissolved gases, suspended matters.
Sir, meron kayong
Next
cards?
slide, please.
Meron. Kasi
So what chemical
makikili, ano po.
properties of water are important? So ito yung mga properties ng water that will affect the heat transfer for cooling system and boiler. So we have conductivity, hardness, alkalinity, and pH. Next slide, please.
Tapos may number kayo. May email lang po kayo.
So ano ho yung conductivity? Is the measure of the total dissolved solids in the water. And it is measured in micromoles per centimeter. Next please. Hardness. So hardness is the amount of calcium and magnesium in water. Alkalinity, carbonate or bicarbonates, also hydroxyl. Meron ng hydroxyl alkalinity sa boiler. But sa cooling tower, dalawa lang yung alkalinity in carbonates and bicarbonates. And it will cause scaling. So we know pH. pH is from 1 to 14. So below 7 is acidic, about 7 is basic or alkaline. Next please. So what are the three basic types of cooling systems? So with the one screw, the next is the closed recirculating and the open recirculating. So ngayon no, dalawa lang yung, wala naman gumagamit ng one screw. So we have the closed recirculating, which is the chiller, and the open recirculating, which is the cooling tower. So one screw, next slide please. Then the closed recirculating system, which is the chiller. So examples will be the diesel engine jackets, automobile radiators, and chilled water systems. Next slide. And we have the open recirculating system. We have spray pans, cooling towers, evaporative condensers. Next slide. So, one of the factors which is important in chemical treatment for cooling tower is the concentration ratio or the cycle of concentration. So, ibig sabihin yung ilang beses nang umikot yung tubig dun sa system. So, we call it concentration ratio or cycle of concentration. Next slide. So, blow down also is one of the factors. So, ito yung mga ka-epekto sa chemical treatment ng cooling tower with the blow down, COC or cycle of concentration, and next is the evaporation and the makeup. So, next is, pag wala hong blow down, nagko-concentrate yung minerals o dissolved solids doon sa system. So, makikita nyo on the first picture, zero blow down, ang dami ng solids. Then with blow down, umuunti yung solids. But yung blow down, makaka-epekto rin mo yung sa chemical treatment. Mababawasan yung chemical pag frequent yung blow down. Next slide please. So we have the chiller cooling system. Next slide please. Or that is the closed recirculating water system. So sa closed recirculating system, wala hong evaporation. So yung chiller, wala siyang evaporation. So ang chemical treatment ho doon parang once lang. Hindi katulad ng open recirculating. Ang chemical treatment is continuous. Because sa close ho, wala siyang evaporation. Next slide please. So this is the closed recirculating system. Next slide. Next slide. So next slide. So ito yung mga major problems sa closed recirculating system, microbiological and corrosion. So sa closed recirculating system, hindi yung problema yung scaling. Ang problema doon is corrosion and the microorganisms. Next slide. So in the open recirculating system, there is evaporation. So yun yung importante. In the next slide, kukumpitin ho natin yung evaporation. So this is the open recirculating system. Next slide please. So ito yung different types of cooling towers. We have the natural draft, mechanical draft, evaporative condensers. So we have the natural draft. So this is the advantages. Next slide please. Then the mechanical draft, we have the induced draft, forced draft. So mas alam mo na ng mga mechanical engineers ito. Next slide. Next slide. So an evaporative condenser is a cooling tower that combines a closed recirculating cooling system with an open recirculating system. So magka-combine na ho closed and open. That is evaporative condenser. So ito yung mga examples ng evaporative condensers. Next slide please. So problems in cooling water system. So we have the following problems: scale, fouling, corrosion, and microbiome. With the way i-emphasize ko lang sa cooling tower, ang pinaka-delikadong microbiome will be yung Legionella pneumophila. So maybe some of you haven't heard yet, Legionella pneumophila. That is a kind of bacteria that causes pneumonia. So medyo hindi ho pinapansin dito sa Pilipinas yung Legionella pneumophila. Unlike in other countries, like in Singapore, I worked in Singapore for 10 years. Yung mga tinitreat namin cooling tower, minomonitor ho yan ng Singapore government. Pag meron sila na-detect na Legionella pneumophila, may summon na yung treater at saka yung owner ng system. Next slide please. So we have the mineral scale. So yun ho, yung calcium, yun yung cause ng calcium and magnesium. So what causes ito? So mineral concentration, water temperature, water pH, suspended solid. So kaya ho sa chemical treatment, pwede ninyong ma-avoid yung scaling through pH, through adjustment of the pH. So in the next slide, I will show a computation para i-adjust mo lang ho yung pH, hindi kayo mag-i-scaling sa cooling system. So the temperature affects the scaling, that directly proportional. Next slide please. Next slide. So the effect of scaling will be decreased plant efficiency, reduction in productivity, production schedule delays, increased downtime for maintenance, cost of equipment repair and replacement. So how to prevent it? So limit the concentration of the scale forming minerals. feed acid to reduce pH and alkalinity, make mechanical changes to the system design, and apply chemical scale inhibitors. So yung number 4 pinakamadali. May mga chemicals na tinatawag na inhibitors, scale and corrosion inhibitors. Next slide. So corrosion is the mechanism by which metals are reverted back to their natural oxidized state. Next slide. Next slide. So pH will affect corrosion. Pag masyadong acidic, corrosive yung water. No? Next slide. Also temperature. Next slide. So other causes of corrosion are dissolved solids, system deposits, water velocity, microbiological growth. Next slide. So general corrosion, localized pitting corrosion, or galvanic corrosion. So ano yung galvanic corrosion? Pag nagdikit yung two different metals, nakakaroon ng galvanic corrosion. Next slide. So these are the corrosion types. Next slide. So ito yung picture na example ng corrosion. Hanggang corroded na. Next slide. Then this is the galvanic corrosion. Okay, next slide. So corrosion destroys cooling system metal and the other effects of corrosion. Next slide, please. So how to avoid it? Use corrosion-resistant alloys, adjust system pH, apply protective coatings, use sacrificial anodes, and apply chemical corrosion inhibitor programs. Next slide. So ito yung mga corrosion inhibitors, chromates, nitrates, orthophosphates, silicates, molybdates. Also carbonates, bicarbonates, polyphosphates, polysilicates, and zinc. General corrosion inhibitors, soluble oils, yung toluene triazole sa benzotriazoles, they are very good for copper. Pag nagkukurodo yung copper, these are the two best chemicals for copper, toluene triazoles and benzotriazoles. So falling is the accumulation of solid material other than scale in a way that hampers the operation of equipment or contributes to its deterioration. So some common pollutants are silt, sand, mud, iron, dirt, and dust, process contaminants like oil, corrosion products, and microbial growth. So ito yung picture ng falling. So what causes it? So water characteristic, water temperature, water flow velocity, microbiological growth, corrosion, and process contamination.
O sige, mamaya mo na ito.
So how does it affect my plant? So decreased plant efficiency, reduction in productivity, production schedule delays, increased downtime for maintenance, cost of equipment repair or replacement, reduced effectiveness of chemical inhibitors. So how to prevent it? So charge, reinforcers or weighting agents.
Ano mo tumakbo?
So the last problem is the microbiological
Nasa
growth.
IEC kami. Naku po.
So bacteria, algae, fungi. Next slide.
Nag-alarm pala.
So slime forming, anaerobic corrosive, ion depositing, nitrifying, and denitrifying bacteria. So ito yung mga pictures ng bacteria. What slime? Okay, next slide. Next slide. So algae,